So as I come to the end of my warm-up, I thought now would be a good opportunity to talk to you all about what over-under training is, how to plan your training sessions, and how physiologically it'll benefit you, because I talked about this in a few other videos. I thought it'd be a good idea, good opportunity to explain exactly what they are and why you should do them. Possibly not all the time, but certainly for a block of training, they're incredibly beneficial.
Research shows that your FTP and your LT2 should be more or less around the same place, both for heart rates and watts. I use LT2 and tend to work at 110 over and 90% under, or 105% over and 95% under. Obviously, a harder over is followed by an easier under in the former, and the interval gaps are closer together in the latter. Platforms like Zwift and Trainer Road have these sessions built in, but if you want to write your own, then they're easy to do. A session might look like this: 4 sets of 5 times 1 minute at 105% and 1 minute at 95%, followed by 4 minutes recovery.
So I'm in my first 4-minute recovery, so I've done 10 minutes of over-unders, 1 minute of overs, followed by 1 minute of unders times 5. And at this sort of percentage above and below your threshold, whether that's FTP or lactate, I'm, as I say, using lactate. It's really interesting sensation if you're doing them right, really, where they're always on the verge of not being particularly comfortable. They're on the verge of being quite horrible, but you never really quite get there. The overs aren't quite an all-out effort, and the unders aren't quite a recovery. And that's the point. Obviously, you're stressing and then resting, but not if you're doing a sprint effort followed by all-out recovery. It's kind of just nudging up and below. I'll get the second block coming up now and see how they go. I mean, in my experience, the last one of them is always the worst, but it's not significantly worse than the first one. You get that recovery to kind of reset and completely flush out any of the waste products, as long as your recovery isn't done too high. And as you can tell from my breathing, it's not too bad right now. But I'll try and talk perhaps on the last couple of intervals in here, and you'll see the difference. My heart rate will be much higher, obviously, because I'm making much more of an effort. At the moment, I'm only riding at 109 watts, so that's less than 50% of my lactate threshold power, just to give myself a fighting chance.
Under-over sessions feature short intervals above and below threshold to develop your body's ability to clear the byproducts of working at the upper intensity that end up leading to a decline in performance. Basically, stress and rest above and below the threshold will increase the threshold over time, continually flooding and then clearing your system. To learn more about lactate, then watch this video.
The fourth interval, the second lot, in terms of the upper rate, and my heart rate is just above threshold, and on the troughs it's dipping to around threshold or just below. So again, not just the power up and below my threshold, but my heart rate too. So it's all tallying up, and if I could summarize this, it really fits with that Chris Boardman quote about when you're doing a time trial, you ask yourself whether you can maintain this speed, and if the answer is yes, you're going too slow. If the answer is no, you've blown it, you're going too fast, the answer really should be maybe. And that's how these feel. And you know they're only 1 minute long, so you know you can get to the end of it. And the only thing is, you sort of perceive the recovery, or the under I should say, as being easier than it is whilst you're doing the over effort. It's never quite as easy as you think. And I'm in the under now, 209, 10 watts. And you can hear, considering my respiratory rate, sweat, heart rate, ability to speak is all a little bit worse for wear. And I'm not quite halfway through all of the session yet. I've got to do all this again plus a bit. But those 4 minutes of recovery at 50% or less should give me plenty of time. This is good stress, very good stress.
And it's not just physical stress. Mentally, this is a great session for really learning how to incrementally hang in there, never quite being total exhaustion and never quite being fully recovered. It weaves in and out of varying degrees of discomfort, and these are good things to have worked on before pinning on a number.
So I'm coming towards the end of the fourth set. I'm on the trough at the moment. I think the second or the third one. I think I've got 2 more intervals of overs left to do. And the way I kind of see it is, if you're familiar with the Borg scale, or what people call rate of perceived exertion, RPE, there are various different ones, but if you use the one with the higher numbers that go up to 20, I kind of feel like it should be, throughout the whole thing, sitting between kind of 15 and 18, sort of moving up through the scale. Obviously, as you do more reps, you know, more muscular fatigue. But far from collapsing off my turbo and sort of claiming that I'm putting myself through absolute purgatory like you might see on other channels, this is tough, but it's always at these stages in a session I always remind myself this is a choice, something that I not only want to do, but I've got the choice over. And you know, it always goes through my mind people that are going through prolonged pain and endurance don't have the choice in those things, and for that reason it always kind of makes me smile through the end of these, rather than sort of proving that I'm some kind of He-Man or something. Probably weigh as much as He-Man, you know, but at the end of the day I can just stop pedaling and climb off, right? Fourth one done. So that's it, done. All 4 sessions. Total time-wise, I think it's about an hour. Yeah, 59 minutes, and I'll do a cool down until my heart rate kind of gets down to somewhere kind of zone 2-ish, low zone 2. Thing to remember when you finish a session like this though, is that I think we forget more often than not when we're training that we're not getting stronger then. The opposite's happening when we do weights or go out and do an interval session or what have you. We actually are making ourselves weaker. We're wearing down muscle and making ourselves more tired. And what happens is, it's only when we rest that our body kind of works out what you've just done and kind of does the building that it needs to do to deal with that stress the next time. It adapts, and it only happens during rest. As I say, sometimes that the word rest is actually spelt in stress. You have to have the rest as well as the stress. It's not good enough just doing the stress. And in British cycling they have a saying that there's no such thing as overtraining, just under resting, which, facetious as it may be, kind of makes sense. If you can be as focused and as detailed about your recovery as you are about your training, you're onto something. So there we have it. The next video I do like this is going to be looking at sweet spot training, which has a similar kind of focus really to over-unders, but is a slightly different session, but also a really good bang for your buck session, particularly this time of year when it's starting to get to the point when we can get out on our bikes and do a little bit longer road riding, but we still need to get a little bit of that top end in there. And it's best for it to be focused and good to be on a turbo, because you can be really focused on getting those numbers right and then just concentrate on easy riding when you're out on the road. So don't forget to hit subscribe, hit the notifications bell, that's really important. Please give me a thumbs up, that really helps the channel, as does leaving a comment below. Let me know what you're doing in your training. And until I see you on the next video, take really good care of yourselves.